Okay, is there any further questions? Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly appreciate everybody's thoughts and opinions up here, but I think, especially at the Planning Commission and what we should do at the City of San Antonio is not just think about the development when it first begins or how it's going to be done, but also, 20 to 30 years from now, what's going to happen. The water treatment plant, I understand we're going to have an operator for that, and who's going to hire the operator for the wastewater treatment plant?
That would be the permittee who would be hiring the Class A operator.
So
Right.
basically the neighborhood.
The neighborhood, I'm sorry?
The development would pay, who's going to hire the person overseeing the wastewater treatment plant?
So that, yes, it would be a contract between the developer and a Class A type operator.
Okay, but once the developer builds this out and leaves, who then is going to be overseeing the contractor?
It would still be the Class A operator who is overseen, and again, they are overseen by the PUC and TC.
Okay, so once you as the developer select that contractor who's going to oversee the wastewater treatment plant, the residents there who end up living there will have no say anymore about who controls the wastewater treatment plant.
Is that true?
I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen 5 years after you guys build it out. So ultimately, if there becomes a problem with the contractor or issues with the plant itself, basically the residents, the neighborhood, are paying for that. Okay, the Medio Creek that they mentioned, all the city ones, we all as SAWS ratepayers pay for that at a very small rate due to each of our bills, right? Cover that if there's any issues with that. Think about another Winter Storm Uri. What's going to happen to that wastewater treatment plant if the whole city freezes over again? How quickly are they going to be able to get that? How much will the neighbors have to pay in addition to maintain that? So I understand about the city wanting to be there at the table. Personally, I really don't care about annexation. I know that it has been the city model for many, many years. That's not what I concern myself with at the city. I have plenty of residents, 165,000 of them, that I'm responsible for already. We have a lot of things in the city to fix. Annexation is not my priority, nor do I think it's most of the council's priority at this point, right? So that being a bargaining chip is not really something for me to consider about that. So again, I try to think about the long-term process. I understand there's going to be elected officials within the neighborhood representing that. I have dealt with, and I know you call it a political subdivision, a small city. I call that an HOA. And I've never lived in an HOA. I've dealt with many HOAs over the years. I'm not sure if anybody else here lives at an HOA. It is very, very difficult for them to maintain the vegetation around the monument, right? It is hard to replace trees and irrigation in an HOA. And now you're talking about a wastewater treatment facility. Who here knows how to manage that? So if you are responsible all of a sudden in your neighborhood to do that, how would you even go about that? And I'm not sure that everybody who's going to be living there necessarily would know that, right? There's plenty of examples of folks that sign their deeds and are unaware of the restrictions or covenants that are imposed on them. So I understand that a lot of times the job here is to look at face value and provide a recommendation, but you also have to consider the effects and the snowball effects of this development. And one last question for you. Does Lennar currently own this property?
No, Lennar does not own this property.
Okay. So, and is let's just say it does not pass city council, you go to the state, is it a guarantee that you will get a MUD from the state?
It's not a guarantee.
Okay.
Councilman.
So you don't own the land and there's not a guarantee. So I want the commissioners here to understand this is not going to just happen even if the council decides not to do it. Is that correct?
That's right. The MUD creation is a public hearing process, very similar to this. There is no guarantee with any public hearing.
Okay. So again, I want to remind the commissioners, even though the city is not at the table, that's not saying that there's going to be development with fewer restrictions now because we're not there. It may not even happen, right? Is it under contract with you all, I'm assuming?
It is under contract. I can tell you this, although Lennar does not own it, they have invested heavy sums of money. It is not in the cards for Lennar to walk away from this deal, Councilman.
I completely understand, and that's on y'all, right, as a business, your investments and how you knew this was going to play out. So, again, not a guarantee that the owner is going to sell to you, not a guarantee that a MUD will be created, even if council denies the MUD application.
I hope that the seller abides by the contract and does sell to us, considering the heavy sums that Lennar has expended already.
Yeah.
But again, I want to remind you, yes, the MUD is not a foregone conclusion, but the wastewater treatment plant is coming. We have our discharge permit. We have other development approvals. The development is coming, Councilman.
So so the wastewater treatment plant is going to be built no matter what happens?
That is the plan for this site, to build the wastewater treatment plant. That is why we went through the TCEQ public hearing process for the discharge permit.
So I'm trying to understand here, so no matter what happens, even if the state denies a MUD, you are still going to build that plant?
That is the plan.
And you're still going to build homes?
Correct. It would be a single-family residential development, and the way to serve this with sewer would be through the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah. And you can accomplish that without a MUD?
We could. Ideally, we would have the MUD to assist with the public infrastructure costs and to add the additional layer of oversight from professionals who are experienced in wastewater treatment plants.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. So again, it's about what can happen and what will happen, what's a guarantee to happen, and how much we're going to help that development happen with our hand at the city. I personally believe that we should not be helping that situation. If they're going to do it, they don't need help from us to do that. But that's my perspective. So thank you very much.